The Emmy Award-winning program Aspire would like to thank the personnel and the viewing audience for their loyal and generous support.
Ever since the dawn of humankind, we've sought the origins of our life and its purpose. Some have chosen to look to science, religion, or philosophy for answers. Many have turned to the great masters such as Lao-tzu, the Buddha, and Jesus Christ for spiritual illumination. Still others have sought truth through their own direct experience. All of us are searching, knowingly or unknowingly, for enlightenment, truth, and harmony in our lives. This program, hosted by Dr. Gregory Penn, will help you aspire to a more fulfilling and rewarding life.
Every day we take a step, we understand. The closer that we get, we'll find in who we are. We choose between the left and right, the ups and downs, the darkness or the light. We'll find in who we are.
Good morning and welcome to Aspire. We're going to be working with the most difficult of all spiritual insights, and that is to remain open. Many of us are very closed. We have too many religious ideas and opinions and beliefs. And yet, life is a very open experience. And we're going to test one of the major premises of our life, and that is how receptive and how open are we to new ideas and new experiences about our own life. Truly an important key in spiritual growth. And then we're going to have back with us Phil Smith. So stay tuned for a half hour of inspiration as we aspire to our hearts. I was just sitting here thinking about what chance does life have in any of us as a form of an opportunity for anything to happen. We contain so much life in us and so many possibilities. And I was sitting here just before the music started and it occurred to me, there's a great possibility in us for great self-destruction as well as construction. And of course, most people want construction and not self-destruction, but I'm wondering which one is better. We don't tend to be very open people. To be open is not easy. We're afraid that people might find out who we are and what we are. We're basically not feeling real comfortable with ourselves on an overall point of view. We dress so other people will think that we're appropriate, and we put on faces so other people will think that we are confident or that we are sincere, that there's nothing wrong with us. I always like to say to you guys that I disguise myself as a normal person, whatever that is. And I think we all do. We wear the clothes that disguise ourselves. It's hard to be open. Because if we're open, then we're vulnerable. And if we're vulnerable, God knows what would happen to us. And yet, in spirituality, if a person is not open, the opportunity for life can't happen. There is no opportunity for life. Life then passes us by, and we can say, I faked my whole way through my life. I acted like everybody wanted me to act. I thought like everybody wanted me to think. I pretended like everybody wanted me to pretend. And I never was me. And that's the sadness that we find a lot of older people dying with. The last thought on our mind, I think the most tragic thing that kind of hits me is the last thought on my mind would be, I didn't do any of the things I really wanted to do because I was afraid of what other people would think of me if I did them. No matter how foolish they were, even doing TV. You've got to be yourself, but to do that there is an element of risk, and the risk is to be open beyond what everybody thinks. I'd like to read to you something from Buddha. A lot of people accuse me of being too Eastern, and I don't really think, well, we have to understand Jesus came from the East too, so if you get into Jesus, you're an Easterner too. But I think that Jesus and Buddha, Lao-tzu, Yogananda, Muktananda, all of the great masters all had a commonality in them. And I want to share with you something here that Buddha shared in the commonality of our openness. He said, do your thoughts trouble you? Does passion disturb you? Be aware of thirstiness, lest your wishes become desires and your desires bind you. If we are bound by anything, and it's not the form of openness that you and I would like to have, it is the desire to be accepted by people, the desire to have other people want us and love us. And that's where we have a problem. We have an attitude problem. You know, the most important thing that you and I get is not that other people accept us. Never, never worry about other people accepting you. It doesn't matter. If you look at it, who cares if they do? Who are they to accept me? Who's greater than me? Is the Pope greater than me? Am I any worse than Adolf Hitler? I have both highs and lows in me. I have Jesus Christ in me. I have Adolf Hitler in me, and you do too. We have a gamut of things in us that are possible. The interesting thing about life is what allows us to turn that corner in life and find our greatest sense of self. It's only in one thing. It is in being open. You and I are going to have to risk being open to God. It is difficult, very difficult. Look at Jesus for a moment. What a rebel. What a problem child he was. He called us on everything. Some of his greatest lines are things that you never hear ministers talk about. When he said to the Pharisees, I know your hearts. You have not love of God in your hearts. You are like graves that men walk over. You stink, he said. You smell like dead, rotting bodies. It's those things that he said. He was risking being open. He was telling us, look, you're not being open. You're living the lie. The greatest thing that hurts us is not the truth. It is the lies that we live, the ones where we're not true to ourselves. I've said this to you folks before, but to our home audience, they may not have heard it, so bear with me on this. In the effort to try to find out who you are and to be who you are, you have the right to make as many mistakes as are necessary to become yourself. God does not punish you in your experimenting with yourself, in your flaws and in your mistakes. You are blessed by who you are and what you are, and in those flaws and in those mistakes, there is a gift behind every one of them. I give you some gifts to openness, and please listen to me. They help. The first gift is, beyond a shadow of a doubt, don't try to please other people. If you go your whole life trying to make other people happy, you will make them happy while you remain brokenhearted. You will have lived your life for someone else, as if you were in someone else's body, in somebody else's life, and not your own. Love other people. You can care about them. You can acknowledge them. You can listen to what they have to say. You can bless them and understand them, but don't try to please them. Jesus never pleased his mother. I can think of 3 instances when he's in the temple and he said, know ye not that I must be about my Father's business? When he turned the water into the wine and said, woman, I have nothing to do with you yet. And when he denied his family's entrance into a room where he was teaching. He wasn't saying that he didn't love his family. He was saying, I love everybody equally, and you don't get more attention out of me because you're my mother. You are loved just the way you are, as everyone else would be. And we need to keep that in mind, the balance of loving each other, of being open. The second thing in openness. Let me read it to you from Buddha. He says it so beautifully to us. He says, quiet your mind, reflect, watch. Nothing binds you. You're free. Reflect, watch. Notice that Buddha doesn't say, have beliefs, think certain thoughts, try to make things right. Watch. Simply watch. If you watch, you will see that a lot of your life is closed down because you're trying to please people, conform to religious ideas and doctrines and beliefs that you really don't understand or that you don't want. Be open. Let another person know you. Let another person love you. Open yourself up. Say, I love you, not from an emotional point of view, but from that accepting point of view. And when you say, I love you, what you're really saying is, I'm open to you. I'll let you come into me, where we are one and we find our oneness in each other. Openness is the greatest risk that we take, and yet it is the most necessary risk in our spirituality. If we won't make the risk towards openness, there's nothing left. Life is not an opportunity anymore. It becomes a disaster. Welcome back to this segment of Aspire. I have as my guest Phil Smith. Phil has spoken at my center many times. I am, to say the least, in love with Phil for many reasons. He's an ex-Unitarian minister. He's a counselor. He deals with dream therapy and work and meditation. And whenever he comes and spends time with my congregation, they always feel a sense of enrichment. And I wanted to share Phil with many of you out there who are viewing with us. Phil, welcome to Aspire.
Glad to be here.
A lot of your work deals with dreams. Tell us how dreams work in our life, what they really are. A lot of us look at dreams and we say, I had a dream last night, and we sometimes forget it and don't really think that it means anything.
I'm not sure, but in my experience, dreams come from the same place as intuition. Mm-hmm. They provide a very deep richness from the unconscious. Mm-hmm. And I simply don't believe that ordinary therapy can profoundly work for transformation without enrichment from the spiritual or the intuitive level. And dreams are incredibly nourishing. And so I like to teach people to be open to that nourishment.
You said something that gets me, the opportunity for spiritual transformation. That doesn't come in just sitting in a church or listening, does it? Taking in the whole account of our dreams. What are our dreams trying to tell us, really? What do they do? A lot of people are very superstitious about dreams.
Well, I think that the two main levels that I've worked on in my own life, and one is that to integrate the human in us is to really ground ourselves in the spiritual. And the human has to do with really finishing up old business. Mm-hmm. And as you know, in my hearing your talks, the emphasis is on reawakening the courageous child in us. Mm-hmm. The child in us becomes enchanted with the culture and with parents and becomes terrified and closes off. Mm-hmm. So, the Buddha said, what is it I do? It isn't magic, it's waking up. And so dreams help us to wake up and to really integrate, to forgive the child part of us over and over. We're going to fail and fall asleep every day, but when we learn compassion, which is in Buddhism was the idea of sorrow is healing.
Yes.
True compassion is to realize that when we are frightened, we are afraid of something, we are hanging on to something. And to be able to feel a sorrowful compassion is to open to joy. Buddha said there's a river of sorrow, but there's a cosmic ocean of love.
Oh, how beautiful, how beautiful. So anything can be healed.
Yes.
And sorrow is not a sad time necessarily. No. It's a time of healing, which is not something that we as Westerners think about. We think of sorrow as a bad thing, a negative thing, and you're saying it opens up a possibility for something better.
Yeah.
So do you work with your patients with this kind of therapy?
Yes. It's the concept of melting, of that until we can honor true compassion, we will not deepen our joy.
Phil, I want to thank you. That was truly an unusual idea about sorrow. We're going to have you back on another program.
Thank you.
Thank you for taking the time to be with us. We appreciate it.
Your
dreams are significant and they are important. They are not something to be just overlooked. And I think a lot of what Phil has to say in the form of his help helps all of us. Thanks for being with us. We'll be right back. Openness. Let's talk about it. I'm sure you have some questions about our openness. Okay, first.
Greg, I work with children a lot. Children are very, very open. somewhere between childhood and adulthood, we lose openness. As an adult and as a teacher, I like to remain open with my children. Sometimes it's very difficult. What happens?
Where did we lose it?
Where did we lose it?
We lost it when it became more important for us to please other people than it did for us to please ourselves. And that's where it was lost. An example, when it was more important for me what you thought of me or what these people out here think of me than my truest sense of self. And a child acts out of pure innocence. The child does not think in terms of whether you will like or dislike. The child is spontaneous. At that level, truly one of the most spiritual possibilities arises in a child. No wonder Jesus said that we had to be like children. I can see why. Not childish, but like children. That spontaneity. Somewhere along the line, you and I started looking at our life and feeling some rejection out there for what we were. Okay? It might be in our personality, our religious beliefs, this color of our skin. I was a redhead all of my life, this body. And I know a little bit about rejection because wherever I went as a male with red hair, I was rejected. Now that I've gotten older, it's now funny to me. We all had that rejection, and I worked very hard to try to compensate for that redheadedness of mine. After a while, you drop it. You have to ask yourself a question. Who do you live with? You and I as adults. Do I live with you, or do I live with me? Most of us won't live with ourselves. We want other people's approval, and we think in their approval of us, somehow we will be better people. And what I'm really saying is, Marianne, tell me how wonderful I am, and I'll believe you. So that's where we lost it. The children that you work with must be very difficult at times. Do you ever feel a sense of jealousy?
Yes.
I do too.
I'd like to be as open as they are and accepting as they are and non-judgmental as they are.
Then act out of your spontaneity. Here's where our knowledge hurts us. We have too much knowledge to be loving. We have too much knowledge to be kind. We have too many opinions to be compassionate. So that's why I say to you folks always, over and over and over again, your knowledge is the barrier between yourself and your God. So drop it. And while you're with the children, pick up on their spontaneity. There are some things you can do. Be spontaneous. Don't try to please other people. And above all, be yourself, even if that's gawky. Big risk, huh, being gawky. But you know, some of the cutest things that I've seen people do as adults doing risky things as children would. Like riding bicycles when maybe they haven't ridden one in years. I live in a neighborhood that's filled with children, and there's a woman there's about 40, 42 years old, and I saw her riding down on a skateboard, okay? Yeah, and I thought this was very unique, right down Rancho Bernardo, and I thought how unique that was. And as I was walking my dog, I heard the neighbors say, how ridiculous, she wasn't acting her age. Don't worry about acting your age. Just be yourself. And if you come be with me, that's all you can be. I will accept you just as you are, because you've accepted me that way. Next question. Gina.
Greg.
Gina.
Greg. In our attempts to live in the world as it is, and through our adolescence, closing many doors and not letting people know who we are and all of this, as we grow older, we tend to have more and more things hidden behind things, and we don't want to, even when we really want to be open, we find sometimes that we are protecting others by not being completely open. How do we work this? Should we not continue sometimes to feel good within ourselves for everything that we are, but not blast everyone with who we are all the way inside?
Right. There's a difference between intimacy and ego. Mm-hmm. When we're egotistical, we say, okay, the heck with the world, I'm going to be myself and I'm going to blow the world out. And that's one way of doing it. Muhammad Ali did it very well. But he made a lot of money doing it, and that was, it was showbiz. But with you and I, we need to practice intimacy. There are many sides to me and to you. I'm showing you one side of me right now. There's even another side, a more intimate side. I might not choose to do that with you because maybe I don't know you, or maybe I sense a criticism, or I sense something. It's that way with everybody, okay? Be intimate with people. In other words, what a child will do is be where he is. He will respond to the person that is there. So be intimate. Practice being intimate. You can feel how far you can go with people. Go as far as you know to go. Not cautiously, openly. Sometimes you'll go too far with certain people. You will misjudge them. It's okay. Let them come down. It's their problem. If anybody comes down on you for what you are, they only hurt themselves, not you. Please remember, they know not what they do. Okay? But develop intimacy with people. One way I found to do it is when you're talking with someone, be there with that person and don't be aware of anyone else around you. And that is the key. Not to be aware of anyone else. I'm just talking to you now, Gina. It's us, you and I. And that intimacy builds between us till I can share more and more of myself. You just can't go out on the street and say, here I am, take me. Because that's, I think, too much for all of us. But I think we can build those small, intimate moments with each other. Husbands and wives, whoever, business associate, men and men. Men and men have real trouble. Men have trouble being intimate with each other. If we touch each other, it's considered a sexual act. And it's not. And I like to see men hug. I love to see men touch. It doesn't have to be a sexual act. It can be an act of kindness and of love. We need to touch each other. We don't touch at all. You and I, we don't touch. We touch on a surface level, on a religious level, on a social level, but never on an intimate level. I got a feeling, Gina, as I look at you, that you're looking for that intimate level with yourself and others. Is that true?
Yes.
And be yourself. You know who to be intimate with and who you can let your defenses down with. And those that you can't, just be aware of where they are without criticizing. You can be intimate with your enemy if you know who they are and where they're coming from. And you can be compassionate with them. Don't worry about it. Openness. It is a risk that we take. It is a risk of our heart. It's moving from our head to our heart. We hear people talk about wanting peace on earth, but it'll never be achieved until we are open. Namaste. You know, openness is a real rarity in people these days. We live in a society where there's so many people with so many opinions and religious beliefs and always trying to put them on us. Our effort on Aspire is not to put any kind of religious belief or ideal on you, but to have a sense of openness. If you were to follow a Jesus or a Buddha, a lao-tzu, a Socrates, you would have to be a very open person. These were people who were teaching us not to have religious beliefs and attitudes like we see in our world today. But these were people who were trying to teach us that opening up our heart wide unto the body of life creates an appreciation for life itself, an appreciation for ourselves, and opens us up to the truth of life. So my dear friend, this week, practice being open. Don't make judgments about people. Don't make criticisms about people. Let people be where they are as they are. Be open to them. You might find even in the person who is your supposed worst enemy that there's something in them that can teach you, that can help you, that can unify you with them, and you will begin to see that we are all one in this great scheme of life.
There's so many roads